I was 19. I was in love with my high school sweetheart. We went to school together. We signed up for classes together. We shared a U-Haul on the way to school together. We lived in the same dorm together. We walked to class. We walked to breakfast in the morning and walked to class together. I mean, we were just joined at the hip, and we were completely crazy infatuated in love. And everything was tied up in that relationship. And then halfway through the first year of college, she discovered beer and other boys on the same night, and she cheated. I was wrecked, emotionally just devastated. I mean, I could not even operate in life anymore. I mean, reading changed my life because I was still reading. It was one thing that's brought me through everything. I've always been a reader. And I happened to pick up the school newspaper, and it was this full-page ad, and it was this perfect white sandy beach, turquoise water, blue sky, little wisp of a cloud, big green palm tree. And across the top of the ad, it said, "Escape. Students needed for summertime jobs in the Dominican Republic." So I escaped. I went down there, and one night, my friend Kevin and we hopped into a car after dropping off a client, and we were in the northeast part of the country, new developing part of the country, and a new road had been paved, and we start flying down this road going back to where we were staying. So we're going down this road 85 miles an hour in this car, and I still remember all of the feelings of the entire thing because all the windows were open, and that air was coming in. That amazing humid, if you've been in the Caribbean, that just gorgeous, amazing humid air is coming in. And just this life and this vibrancy felt like it was in the car. And we're driving down the road 85 miles an hour on the road. On the radio is playing Tom Cochran's "Life is a Highway." And we're singing this song at the top, "Life is a highway." We're just singing this thing out, having this great time. And then we came upon a corner. We go around that corner. Kevin grabs the wheel. He goes, "Hold on." And the car starts sliding sideways, and that weird slow motion thing happens. The car skid off the highway, and when it popped up into the air several times. I smacked my head. When it hit the ground, rolled several times, I got knocked out completely. When I came to, I looked over, and Kevin is screaming at the top of his lungs, "Get out of the car, Brendan, get out of the car!" And I look over, and a whole big chunk of his head is open. There's blood everywhere. His eyes are wild. "Get out of the car, get out of the car!" And I stand up eventually on the hood of the car, looking down, and he's screaming over here, and I look and I notice all this blood on me, and I feel like this shock and this terror going down. I look down and I see that blood, and that slow motion thing is kicking in, and I'm watching the blood come off of me onto the hood of the car. And this fear just comes out and drains all over the hood of the car. And I remember just looking down and that slow motion thing's happening. I just thought, did I even matter? Was there purpose to this? Was there a reason for all? And I didn't like that answer. Did I matter? I felt like I was going to pass out. And I felt sad. And I saw the blood going off the hood of the car. And just as I was about to pass out, I noticed a glint, like a sparkle, something shiny, a reflection in the blood going off the hood of the car, and it made me look up. And there was this bright, big, beautiful moon that night. I hadn't even seen it earlier. This moon so big that the blueness was emanating across the whole sky. And I just immediately felt this connection of, like I knew I was going to be okay. From this moment of fear to just this immediate moment of connection, I felt like I was going to be okay. And I felt like the big guy upstairs reached down to me and handed me life's golden ticket. He reached down and said, "Here you go, kid. You're still alive. You can still love and matter. But now you know the clock is ticking." And I remember getting that ticket, like that feeling of gratitude for being here, that feeling of a second chance. And I just remember feeling I'm going to be okay, but I wanted to do something. I just felt like I will earn this. I will earn this. Because I think when you get a blessing, you want to earn it. And I felt that, and I remember feeling like this connection, like I'm still here. I'm okay. It's going to be all right. But now, like I said, I knew that time was limited. Mortality motivation. Mortality motivation. I got it as a 19-year-old kid. People say, why are you so successful? I'm like, I got mortality motivation when I was 19. That's a blessing. Most people don't get that till they're 60. I got real lucky at that. But I got it too. I got it. One thing that I took away from that entire thing was that moment and those questions, because I remembered them and I thought about them as I was healing. I was like, what was that about? Why did I feel so unhappy with that moment? Because I thought, in the last moments of life, there must be this transcendence, and I was not happy. And I realized it was because of how I'd been living my life, and I wasn't living to my questions. I knew I got those questions. Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? And soon as I got that those were the questions I'm going to evaluate myself with at the end of the life, it gave me the power of what my late mentor, Wayne Dyer, taught, the power of intention. I got it. When you know how you're going to evaluate your life at the end, you got real intention. You got mortality motivation, and everything changes. You're lucky to be alive. Do you have this breath right now? A second chance doesn't happen once or twice, every single day. That breath you just took, feel it. Feel a breath, take a breath in. What a blessing that is, you got that life. What a blessing is you got that breath. What a blessing, because that means you still got time. That means you still got something inside. That means you're still here. And now you just got to earn that blessing. You got to work for it. You got to contribute for it. You got to give for it. You got to lead for it. You got to love for it, because you still have something not just in you, you're still here for a reason.
In my mind, as I think about this idea of getting what you really want and being able to attract it into your life, what we have to look at is basically the obstacles that we have conditioned ourselves. And you notice I say that we have conditioned ourselves, because I have never believed that we need to be putting the responsibility on someone else. If you're conditioned, it's because you have allowed yourself to become that. And if we conditioned ourselves to believe certain kinds of things, and one of the things that we kind of believe and hang on to and live with is this whole idea that all of the things that happened to me in my past are what are keeping me from doing what I'd like to do today. So we hang on to these things and we fill ourselves with blame. We say, I'm the middle child. I'm the youngest child. I'm the oldest child. I'm an only child. Any one of those is a great excuse. If you're the youngest child, you can say, well, how could I be making decisions for myself and be a fully functioning person today when I always had somebody else telling me what to do my whole life? How could I think for myself? If you're the oldest child, you can simply say to yourself, well, how could I be expected to think for myself? I always had to think for somebody else. I was always doing it for somebody else. And that leaves the middle child. The classic identity crisis. Oh, poor me. My mother didn't even know my name. She was always calling me by this one's name or that one's name. So I don't know where I fit in. So that takes care of everybody except the only child. And of course, the only child, well, your parents looked at you and said, we won't be doing that again. Huh? You have to live with that, I don't. Huh? So everybody, with their birth order, or with their mother liked their sister better, or that we had enough, or we didn't have enough, or we had too much, or we lived in the north, we lived in the south, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I've got too much hair, I don't have enough hair, it's falling out, it's not falling out, whatever it is, we all have these excuses. And I call all of these things that we hang on to and use to keep ourselves from reaching these higher places in our lives the wake. I call it the wake. And the wake comes from a story that I heard Alan Watts tell one time, and it was a very powerful story. He said, your life is like a boat, and it's heading up the river at, say, 40 knots. All right? And as it's going, you are somehow able to metaphorically stand on the stern, the back of the boat, and look down into the water. Now there goes your life in this direction, and you're standing here and you're looking down into the water. And you ask yourself these three questions. The first question, what is the wake? What is it? What is this thing that you see? And the answer, the wake is the trail that is left behind. That's what it is. Nothing more, nothing less. It's the trail that is left behind. Second question to ask yourself in this little metaphor, what's driving the boat? What's making this thing go in this direction? The answer, the present moment energy that's being generated by the engine, and nothing more. That's the only thing that's making the boat go in this direction. And in this little scene, this means it's the present moment thoughts that I have and how I am using them that is making my life go in this direction, and nothing more. Because the third question is the most important and powerful question. And ever since I heard it, I've always thought about this whenever I have a tendency to look back here and blame something. Is it possible for the wake to drive the boat? That is, can a trail that is left behind make a boat go in this direction? And of course the answer to that is no, it can't. It's just a trail that is left behind. And in that trail, there are an enormous number of things, and every one of us has a wake. And we have a whole lot of stuff in it. And one of the problems that we have is that we have a tendency to look at the wake and all of the stuff that's in it to explain why it is my life isn't working the way I would like it to work.
What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? How big would you play if you knew that you can survive any heartbreak, any breakdown, any betrayal? What would you do if the things that you were afraid of you knew were absolutely nothing? They were all opportunities for you to get stronger in your faith, stronger in your resiliency. What would you do? Who would you love? How big would you play? Where would you leap? And the bigger question is, how would the world benefit differently? How would the world benefit differently because who you've decided to be? How would the world be a better place to live because fear didn't have you standing on the edge? What would you do if you were told that you get to do it afraid? That you don't have to wait for the fear to leave? That when you get in action, the fear has to dissipate into the nothingness that it always was? What would you do? How would life be different? How would the world be a better place to live? Oh, I didn't come to keep you comfortable. I came for your breakthrough. I came to challenge you to play in the biggest field you've ever played in. I came for you to challenge the fear that might be inside of you and to redesign and reprogram it. You look at it long enough, you be with it intimately enough, and it has to dissipate. You are the designer of your destiny. You are the author of your autobiography. You write the story of your life. No one can write your financial story. No one can write your spiritual story. No one can write your emotional story but you. The pen has always been in your hand. The pen has always been in your hand. I say write a story that's going to be damn good to read. When you do that, you will have to reprogram the fibers of your being. You will have to become someone you've never been before. You want to go somewhere you've never gone? You got to do something you've never done. You got to say something you've never said. You got to go to a place in you that you've never even been. You get to redesign You are your Michelangelo. You are your greatest sculpture. And you get to recarve and you get to up-level as much as you need. You're not sentenced to this life this way. You chose it.